views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. And man, is it a pleasure to be doing this show again from the confines of my favorite little studio here in Miami, Florida. Last week, we were in a hotel room. I was doing the show from a hotel room in Orlando because I was on business, but we still made the show happen. Our producer, Lauren, was producing the show from some random theater in some city in Washington State that I can't pronounce, and we still brought the show to you, and I couldn't be happier about that. Happy to bring in our co-host as well this week. JC is joining us. Hey, JC.
How's it going?
It is going so well. Can I tell you something about this hotel situation?
Sure.
Okay. So we're doing this, recording the podcast from the hotel room, and I don't have this professional mic, and I don't have the walls set up that are sound treated. I don't have the lighting and everything. And I'm afraid the product's not going to look great. And then I listened back to it, and it sounded really solid, because here's something I've now discovered and affirmed. Hotel rooms, sneaky good acoustics.
Okay, yeah, but you might just be the MacGyver of podcasts. That could also be it. Don't sell yourself short.
I'll take all the credit people are willing to ascribe to me, but think about what a hotel room is, okay? Carpet, thick curtains, bed sheets, basically 85% of the cubic surface area of a hotel is padded in some way, right?
It's true.
And so they wind up being
walls.
Sometimes the wall. Well, if it's a crazy enough hotel, some of those Vegas ones, you'll get the padded walls. And I'm not the only one to have discovered this. I heard from one of my high profile clients on this exact subject when I told him about my discovery. And he told me, oh yeah, we lay down vocals in hotel rooms all the time. Not just because we're always traveling, so we have to, but right, hotel rooms, great acoustics. Sometimes we'll throw down some blankets up on the walls or whatever, but apparently hotel rooms, sneaky good places to record audio.
It's almost like they were made to keep the sound inside the room.
Oh yeah, and that's the other thing, right? Is
almost
you're keeping sound, unwanted sound does not make its way into the room because of, their hotel. Unless you're in one of those kind of less elite hotels.
Yes.
I have a
less elite hotels.
Well, I
basically everywhere I stay.
I have a very firm memory embedded into my brain of a certain hotel that I don't want to slander on the air, so I'll just say that it rhymes with Ibano Lodge. Okay. And I was in this random hotel at this in this room, and was able to hear word for word an entire drug deal transaction happening in the room adjacent to mine, and I thought I was going to die that night. Thankfully, the room I was in last week to do Break the Business, complete opposite and perfectly good acoustics. So if there was some illicit transaction happening in the room next to me, I wouldn't have known about it. And more importantly to this podcast, it would have never picked up on the mic.
Yeah, it's true. I'm still stuck on the fact that you just called it Ibano Lodge, and U2 is already putting the paperwork to sue you immediately. So just know that's coming down the line for you, Ryan.
Oh man, I wouldn't want to get them upset. All right, so let me talk about our guest this week. Really excited to have him on. He's going to be coming up after the commercial break. Judah Wiedre is joining us. He is the COO of Airbit. I love companies like this. Airbit's an online beats marketplace, and I find that these companies are so often on the front lines of indie artist empowerment because so many great indie artist tracks that we discover on TikTok or that catch fire on SoundCloud, if you trace their lineage all the way to their beginnings, it all started with often a beat that somebody gets off of one of these beat marketplaces that they either lease or something. And And just, I love these kind of companies. And in addition to working at that company, he's got a long history as a indie artist empowerment advocate and a music executive. He's worked with Fender and Mashable. We're going to have a lot of stuff to talk to him about. I'm excited.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, real cool. So here's the thing about Judah's story, all right? I want to get your thoughts on this before we bring him in after the commercial break. So I'm going to let you and the listeners peek behind the curtain on something. Before we bring in a guest, we have them fill out a questionnaire of the things that they want to talk about, and we get their information, like what's your social, or your social media, not your social security number. That's probably a little too much information. What are your socials, websites, what stories do you want to talk about? Any interesting facts you want to share? And the one thing I always ask them as part of the questionnaire is there a funny life story of yours, unrelated to music, that we can talk about on the air? And every once in a while, a guest gives me like a good nugget. I'm like, oh, that's definitely going to come up in the interview. Here's my problem with Judah. Judah gave me 3 amazing nuggets of things we can talk about on the air. We don't have time to talk about all 3. So what I want to do, JC, and I'm going to invite you and the viewers/listeners on this particular thing. I'm going to give you all 3 stories. And I want you to tell me which of the 3 do you want Judah to tell during the interview, okay?
Okay, here we go.
So, let's do it this way. We'll ask you first, JC. We'll give you a chance to weigh in. And then throughout the show, we'll let the viewers and listeners answer in the comments of which of the 3 stories they want to hear. And based on kind of where the consensus lies, that's the one we'll ask them about. We're nothing if not a democracy
like
here.
RuPaul, it will be my decision.
Yes.
It will be my decision. Thank you.
We didn't want to tell the listeners, but yeah, it's absolutely your decision.
No, just say it up front.
It's the listeners' views will have what we lawyers like to call persuasive authority, but ultimately JC is the judge and jury on this one. All right, so here are the 3 stories, JC. Do you want to hear our guest, Airbit COO Judah Wiedre, talk about 1, the time that he ran with the Bulls in Pamplona and had a rather horrifying run-in with one particular bull? So that's number 1. That's already kind of crazy and out there. Number 2, do you want to hear about how our guest Judah Wiedre's first startup failed because of the band The Killers?
Okay.
That's all we get. We don't know. I don't know what The Killers had to do with his startup. I don't know if Brandon Flowers was an investor who pulled out his funding at the last minute. I don't know.
Mad juicy. That could be really juicy.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
there's a lot there.
What else do we got?
Or do you want to hear about how Judah almost lost $140,000 in Bitcoin due to an incompatible Ledger wallet? I should tell you on the front end, I don't know what a Ledger wallet is. I don't know the basis by which a Ledger wallet establishes its compatibility, but I know that $140,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. $140,000. Money talks. That's a good one. It's like riches to rags story. We love hearing that.
If only there's some way we could combine these. Like, could he tell us a story of how Brandon Flowers of The Killers was riding on a bull and impaled a bunch of his investors, which caused his startup to fail, and somehow he lost 140 G's in Bitcoin?
Or like a bull stole a bunch of Bitcoin and then paid the Killers something down that line. I want to hear about the Killers.
Yes,
I'm
yes!
all team
Yes!
The Killers. Let's do that story.
JC,
my decision is final.
You and I are always so in sync about these things.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one I wanted to hear about so bad, and only because it was the Killers, right? If his first startup failed because of any other band, the Starland vocal band caused your startup to fail. Actually, I'd be pretty interested in that one too. But the Killers in particular makes that juicy. All right, so we will allow, viewers, listeners, if you guys can make a compelling case in the comments as to why we should go in a different direction, we're willing to entertain comments. But JC makes a good point about wanting to hear any story involving the Killers.
True. I'm very sorry. I'm the Electoral College over here. Popular vote, do your thing, but we know who's really making the choices. Over
JC
on this
is Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania on this one. All right. Before we bring him in, want to talk about an interesting story with you that popped in on the Wall Street Journal. If you're keeping score at home, that is now the second week in a row that we get an indie music story from the Wall Street Journal of all places.
Wall Street Journal report. Here we go.
I'm telling you.
Not a sponsor.
Well, we were talking about this last week, JC, that like the millennials have kind of taken over the Wall Street Journal at this point, right? Like when we were growing up, the Wall Street Journals was like a bunch of like, you know, hoity-toity stories about savings and loan banks and crap we didn't care about. And now it's all like Twitch and record labels and indie music. I love it. It's our world now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're renting it because we're millennials.
I don't see it.
But
I didn't see that coming. So here we are. This is the world we live in.
So here's the story. Talking about this, recent phenomenon of it all, like most things in the music industry, it begins and ends with Taylor Swift. But the Wall Street Journal has reported that the Universal Music, the largest record label there is, the 8,000-pound gorilla of the industry, is changing their record deal practices going forward so that artists are not allowed to re-record their old masters. Instead of not being able to re-record their old masters for 2 years after the agreement's over, it's now being extended to as many as 5 years after the agreement is over. And experts are speculating that one of the things that is propounding this is our recent phenomenon of our girl Taylor, who is now rather famously in what I think is like the ultimate FU to Scooter Braun, is re-recording all of her old Big Machine masters so that she can own these new masters. And because her fans love her so much, they're all whistling to the new masters and the old masters are fading into obscurity. Universal doesn't want that to happen again. And so now they're changing their practices.
I just want to ask you, just to jump into the detail here, what sort of power does her re-recording her masters give her as opposed to not? Just for the listeners to, and also me, to be a little bit deeper into the conversation.
Well, it gives her all the power in a lot of ways. So this is something that she's able to do because she commands her fans, right? The Swifties, as I believe they're aptly named, they love her and adore her. And so when she re-records her old masters because she wants to own those, she can then tell her fans, go stream my new version of these songs and not the old version. The Taylor's version, as they're all parenthetically known. And they're all going to do that because her fans love her and appreciate her. And honestly, a lot of these new tracks, it's interesting to hear her reinterpret these songs with the benefit of experience and sort of living a life. And, a lot of the songs have kind of a retrospective quality to them. You can tell like there's a lot more years going into these songs. And so it's interesting to see hear these reinterpretations. Often they're very subtle, but still really interesting. And obviously I love everything that Taylor Swift does and is. And so, these tracks
so you are a Swiftie.
Fabulous. Oh, without a doubt.
Swiftie confirmed.
Without a doubt. I mean, for both as like a music fan and as a music industry pundit, I appreciate her because in addition to like just, writing the songs that make the whole world sing, what she does on the music business side is so cool. As an indie artist advocate, she rather famously in 2015 threatened to pull her album off of Apple Music unless Apple Music agreed to pay all the other artists on the platform during the free trial period, which they weren't initially going to do. So she's always stuck out for the indie artists, which makes this particular story interesting because this is Universal Music making it so that artists can't re-record their old masters for a longer period. And this is the label that Taylor Swift is signed to. When she left Big Machine, she re-signed with Universal. So I don't know what to make of this, that this is her label making sure that nobody can do what Taylor Swift did ever again.
Yeah. Or just gumming up the works for anyone that has any idea of doing such a thing ever again.
Yeah.
So these are only for new contracts, right? Or is this something that they could retroactively do? Like,
I can't. I mean, who knows with these things? But I can't imagine you can't go back and modify a record deal. Like you have a contract, but I mean, who knows with what these labels can do? But I would imagine that what's going to happen here is it's going to be a change in practices going forward. And now,
absolutely,
lawyers like me are going to start to look at these documents, are going to start seeing the 2 change to a 5, and then we're going to like yell about it, and they're going to say, well, we're the label, we're really big, and your client's really small, and then we'll say, yep, I guess it's 5 years now. and unfortunate is what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of power in that because more than ever, owning masters and having those master rights is valuable because we're a streaming world now, and most of the money that is made when a song is streamed on Spotify comes from the master side, not the songwriting side. So songwriters, as little as master recording owners make on streaming services, songwriters make even less. And so if you are Big Machine,
slicing up that penny just a little bit more,
that's
little sliver more.
And so now if you're Big Machine, I shouldn't say Big Machine because Big Machine, sold those masters to Scooter Braun's people. So if you're Scooter Braun, you're now sitting on a bunch of old masters that aren't getting streamed and are not getting used in TV shows and movies and things like that anymore because everybody's going to want to use the new Taylor version to make Taylor happy. And so the value of your masters dropped precipitously. And so Universal's afraid of that happening to them someday, where they own these masters because the label generally owns the masters under a record deal, and they don't want a artist who becomes famous and has a legion of fans to re-record the masters after the deal's over and make their masters instantly worthless. But it's upsetting to me as an artist side entertainment lawyer. I think 5 years is way too long to allow an artist to re-record their old songs, especially in cases where the artist wrote the original song, right? Like you're telling the next Taylor Swift, hey, that song that you wrote, we're not going to let you record your own song again for, what could be a decade after you originally recorded the song because it's after the whole agreement's over. That to me is upsetting. And I wonder what Taylor Swift thinks of all this. Not to put her on the spot because, again, I adore her. She writes all the songs that make the whole world sing. But, as somebody who I know is a staunch indie artist advocate and a strong artist advocate and has often put her name and notes app memos that are screenshotted behind these kind of movements. Oh, she's the queen of the notes app memo that's screenshotted and placed on Instagram and Twitter.
The iOS press release.
Yes. I'm wondering when we're going to see the iOS press release from Taylor Swift saying to her label, I don't like what you're doing here. You're telling the world that what I just did is something you don't want artists to do anymore. Like what message does that send to what is your most valuable artist on your label? I mean, that to me is very surprising to hear. And, I just, I don't know what can be, I'd like to see her take some action on this for what it's worth.
For sure. I mean, if it's what you say, I think it's pretty much in line with what she has done in the past, and that she will be on the side of the indie artists, and that this will be something that she will rail against Universal against, and she'll be pretty vocal, but time will tell, because it's pretty suspicious that they are doing this right after. I think Red was the album that was recently released.
Red, Taylor's version. Oh, so good. Good.
So
the feels, JC. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh man, that album must give you some of the feels. Oh no. It gives you all of them. All of the feels. Every last one.
There are no skips on that album?
Oh, right. There wasn't a skip back when she put it out 10 or 15 years ago, and there are no skips today. Speaking of Red, God, this is going to take us back, JC, but I just remember this story and how hilarious it was. Do you remember when we were watching the Grammys, when Red was up for Album of the Year? And it was up against...
You got to take me back.
This is one of my favorite Grammy stories. My two favorite, all-time Grammy moments. One is Aretha Franklin performing the Nessun Dorma in Pavarotti's Place. Awesome.
Yes.
But number two is Taylor Swift's up for Album of the Year for Red. She's up against Daft Punk's Random Access Memories, which had Get Lucky and all. I mean, that track, that album was incredible. And most people thought that it was kind of neck and neck between the two of them. Most people thought Daft Punk was probably going to win because, again, that album was huge that year. But, Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. And when they're about to announce the winner, they show all the boxes of all the nominees, waiting with bated breath to see who's going to win Album of the Year. And the announcer and the Grammy for Album of the Year goes to, and you hear the first syllable, the R, the R, the R, And in that moment, you see Taylor Swift's eyes light up because she's like, oh my God, they're about to say Red. I'm about to win Album of the Year. And then it's Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. And you see in that moment, like, people need to find this clip of Taylor Swift, I love her, going through all 5 stages of grief in 0.6 of a second at this Grammy Award. Because again, that album probably could have won Album of the Year, and I'm saying that Red Taylor's version, the new one, this one, even better. Let me just say this last piece about what I think this could mean for the industry as a whole, now that we've come back from memory lane here. It is just the latest in record label shenanigans, things that I find so frustrating about the way record labels do things, about, it's so hard to get labels to change their contracts. When I go to labels and say, hey, label, maybe you shouldn't have a packaging deduction in your royalties anymore for digital downloads because they don't have any packaging. And it takes them years to make that change. But meanwhile, the millisecond that they realize that they don't want to become the next Taylor Swift, they are so quick to change the re-recording restriction language from 2 years to 5 years. So these kind of shenanigans frustrate me. And I contrast that with a story that recently has come out from TuneCore. This was reported by Billboard and The Verge, talking about how they've created a new weapon for indie creators. So, on one side, one more reason why record deals kind of stink. Here's a little extra benefit for indie creators. And it's what TuneCore is doing now with its music distribution, with this new, what it's calling social music distribution option. So TuneCore is now allowing artists on its platform to have free uploads of their music to platforms like social platforms like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram Reels, YouTube, things like that. Not the Spotify's and the iTunes's and the Apple Music, but the social media platforms. They'll let you have free distribution of those platforms. To me, this is exciting because a lot of artists these days are getting their start breaking their music on TikTok, where they're putting their music out on TikTok and letting it, get on that platform and go viral for weeks.
Goes viral.
Before they release it on Spotify. And and how crazy is it? Like you see when a song is just a banger on TikTok and then you go into the comments and you see just comment after comment of, please put this on Spotify. Why isn't this on Spotify yet? Yeah.
Make this a sound.
Exactly. And in a lot of ways, that's a targeted strategy on the part of the artist. They are building buzz on the platform so that when they finally do put it on Spotify, then it, obviously has a huge groundswell of support behind it. It can shoot up the charts and create some more virality on that platform. And the nice thing is that TuneCore is making it easy now for indie creators to do that, because now you can do those social media uploads for free, because normally TuneCore charges like, $79 or $59 or dollars a single or whatever. But now you can do the free social upload while you build that support. And then if the track catches fire on TikTok, then you can put up the money to release it as a single on Spotify. But that way you're not releasing a bunch of tracks before you know if they're going to have any traction. And so I love it. I dig it. And seeing those two stories that come out so closely together, where it's like, oh, great, another reason why labels stink. And ooh, here's another great advantage to putting out your music independently. Of course, I have to talk about these stories together.
Yeah, here's something that's actually going to help people. And I really like this shift of saying, you know what, we're going to let you do this for free, essentially, and if it catches fire, yeah, we'll get a cut because we're doing some of the service, but you're going to get a bulk of that. So that's really good to see, because the tools out there, while they are kind of growing, it's kind of it's a muddy waters to really see how people are going to kind of profit off of their creativity, especially in this kind of social media space, where it's like, yeah, I got 1 million views and that's all I got. I got 1 million eyes on something, and I didn't really find a way to sort of, springboard that into something of a career or to help my career. So sounds like a really awesome service.
It is. It's nice to have that free distribution option available, because for, I think, a increasingly large proportion of musicians, that TikTok release is really the only one that matters, in terms of,
oh yeah,
like for a lot of artists, like it just doesn't pay to put it on Spotify anymore. Like, oh, I'm going to put my music on Spotify and, maybe 1,000 people, stream it. I make like nothing and, that's it. Or so like, why even make the expense if like you're not even going to make enough on Spotify to make up for like what you've paid TuneCore to put your music on Spotify? But now you have the only real distribution that matters for many artists is just putting it on TikTok, because maybe it goes viral, maybe it catches fire, maybe I get my big break from that. Maybe a movie wants to put my song in their movie, or a TV commercial wants to put my song in a TV commercial. And those commercials can just as easily find your music on TikTok, and probably are more likely to find your music on TikTok than you would be on Spotify. So I like that this is TuneCore sort of like reading the tea leaves, like getting with the times, being like, oh, maybe this is what the creators want now. Like, it used to be, oh, I'm going to get your music on iTunes. Like 20 years ago, that's what everybody, you needed help getting your music on iTunes. And then it was
every
maybe 15
service
years
was
ago.
that.
Yeah. And then every service was, I'll get your music on Spotify. And now every service is, I'm going to get your music on TikTok.
Yeah, well, you got to go where people are. So that's where they are.
Amen to
and
that.
it's TuneCore. It's not cottagecore. So
I wish it was cottagecore.
it's not American core, which is a thing that I learned exists. So
What is American core? Because like when I close
American
my eyes, I
core-
know what cottage core is. Like I see it in my head. But like is American core like what people in Europe think America is? Like, did I about nail it?
close. It's actually, I think it's it derived in Asia. It is an interpretation
One continent
of,
off.
Yeah, just a little off. You got to move over that, continental shift. Yeah, it's basically sort of stereotypical American things. You see people in China take pictures outside of a Costco and they're like, look at me, I'm doing an American thing. Or, I'm in Walmart. So that is American core.
Oh my God. Is this like,
This is where we are.
oh my God. It's, oh, I just found out the other day that apparently in like Europe, they use the word Texas as a verb. Like when something is like really loud and boisterous and like over the top and ostentatious, they'll be like, man, that's real Texas, which I think is just wonderful. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We got Judah Wiedre from Airbit coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking us out here on Break the Business. More fun to come. Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back, you beautiful people. It is Break the Business on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Sirius XM Channel 145. Wherever you were checking us out, we are so happy to have you. I'm Ryan Kairalla here with JC. Welcome
Hello.
back from the break. Let's bring more people into our fun here. Our guest this week is the COO of Airbit. an online beats marketplace that empowers musicians through community and provides unique monetization tools. Our guest is a former Fender and Mashable executive who has dedicated his career to helping indie musicians find success on their own terms. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting www.airbit.com. We are happy to welcome Judah Wiedre on to Break the Business. Hello, Judah.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thrilled to have you here, sir. We appreciate you taking the time. This is going to be a blast. All right. I got all kinds of music industry questions to ask you about, so don't think we've forgotten about that. However, the people have spoken on this one, and the results are overwhelming, mostly JC. And we have chosen which of the three stories of yours that we would like to hear from, and we'd like to open with this. Can you please tell us all how your first startup failed because of Las Vegas-based band The Killers?
Okay. So first I have to caveat that maybe The Killers was actually like the punchline. It might actually have been the thing I should have saved to the end, but I'll give you the cliff notes here. So basically, I had first moved to New York. I was living in New York City. I must have been maybe 22, 23 years old. And I had two buddies that were living there. One was a lighting guy and one was a roadie, a tour guy. And we had this great idea that we'd come up with this music production company helping produce tours for indie rock bands in New York. And so, we were really scrappy at the time. This must have been 2004, 2005. And we had some great bands and we started to make a little name for ourselves. So after, 6, 7, 8 months, we were producing Interpol. They had a tour happening, Blonde Redhead. I don't know if you remember any of these bands from back in the day. Stella Star was another.
I was a college radio DJ in the early 2000s, so unequivocally, yes.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was prime college music, indie rock music at the time. And so we got this phone call from a band manager called Braden. And he was a friend of a band manager that we were already working with. And he said, I have this like 2-week tour that we have to go and get done. And we need some help. And they made this introduction to me. I was sort of managing the business side of things. And so the conversation was essentially, how quickly can we produce this tour, get hotels, advance the tour, get a tour manager, get a lighting guy. And I was like, perfect. I know it's during the holidays, but my business partners, they can do this. I promise they're the best in the business. And so I offered up my business partners to go on this 2-week tour with this unknown band. And, they go, I think they went to LA and Chicago and New York. And so after the tour's over, they phoned me and said, it worked out great. We want to use your service again. This is fantastic. Let's produce a tour for Europe. And I said, great, let me go find some guys to go on the tour. And they said, actually, no, we want your 2 business partners to go on this tour. Oh. And so it was this big conversation. Should we, what do we do here? We got to give them what they want. It's not a long tour. It'd be like 2 months long. And you guys can, hold your end up of the business while on tour, right? And they were like, yeah, of course, no problem. 20 years later, 17 years later, they're still with the Killers. No. So it was that they broke up the band, so to speak. So both my business partners ended up joining the band and having a really
Brandon
wonderful.
Flowers snatched your team.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Damn.
So yeah. So that's the story. In
they couldn't resist his siren call.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's. Oh God, and so like this would have been what? Like was this like early? So this is like early 2000s Killers. Like we're talking about like pre Hot Fuss or like pre Sam's Town Killers.
Yeah. Oh, this was like this was for Hot Fuss. So it was when Hot Fuss came out. Yeah, exactly. So this was the first tour they did for Hot Fuss. My business partner, his name's Jeremy. He was the tour manager, and ended up, they started to do well. The record came out, and all of a sudden it just, obviously climbed the charts. And so with that success, they really were, let's not change a thing, including our tour manager and our lighting guy. Let's keep it all the same.
Oh, look, like I feel bad for what happened to you there, but like I can't blame your guys for like straying on that. Not just because the Killers are the Killers, but like Hot Fuss was just banger after banger. All right.
Yeah.
You're talking about Mr. Brightside. You're talking about Somebody Told Me. You're talking about Change Your Mind. You're talking about Believe Me, Natalie. Just every track on that album was fire. And like they couldn't resist. It was a siren call, but it sounds like things have worked out okay for you in the meantime though.
Yeah, well, I transitioned from that company. We kept it open. It was called Ground Up Productions, and we kept it open. I ended up starting to manage bands, and I managed this band called Death of Fashion. They were great, although they sounded a little too similar to the Strokes. So it was sort of like, we already got the Strokes. We don't need a second Strokes over here. But because of my relationship with the Killers, we ended up having them open up at Jones Amphitheater for the Killers. So I was able to get like some of my bands to be part of the draft off the success of the Killers at the time, which was really kind of fun.
Did you have any like awkward moments where you're like running into your old guys on the hallway? You got to be like, hey, how's it going? Oh my God, yeah. Have you lost weight?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, come into the Killers green room for a second. And when I came in, I was like, hey, this is not like our green room. This is, we're in the storage closet over here.
They brought you into the green. All right. That's a little cold. Oh man, they're just rubbing it in at that point. All right. But again, things have been pretty sweet for Judah in the meantime. You're doing some really cool things, and you've really kind of been on the forefront in various roles in kind of this technological revolution where we're seeing technology leveling the playing field for indie creators. And that's kind of been the theme of the last few weeks on this program. We've been talking about things like blockchain and NFTs and smart contracts and all these innovations that are coming out of the woodwork to make things, to put indie creators in a stronger position than they would have been, say, 10 years ago. So let me ask you, of all the tech developments you're seeing right now, the Web 3.0s, the blockchains, the whatever it is, what's the example of technology that you're most excited about in terms of leveling that playing field?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I really enjoyed listening to the first part of the show. You guys really had very apropos and relevant to this conversation, of course, with our mission, which is to make music more fair. And so to answer your question, I think that we're going to see a lot more AI technology bolstering independent creators and leveling the playing field. I think Chris Anderson, he wrote that book on long tail where he talked about how like the majority of marketing goes to the smallest amount of creators. And then there's this huge long tail of folks that never see the light of the day, even if it's the best of the best work. So I think with AI technology, what we're going to see is this discovery improvement. And, that's something that we're messing around with at Airbit. We're looking at how we can leverage AI technology to help that discovery. And what I mean by that is, when you look at how an artist might come to Airbit to search for beats, and by the way, just for those who don't know, Airbit is a platform that provides selling tools and monetization services for music producers. But we also have a marketplace where music producers can put their finished instrumental beats up on the marketplace, and then songwriters, rappers, artists, labels can go and license or purchase those beats from producers on the marketplace. And so what we're looking to do is integrate a discovery tool that makes it more searchable by sound. And so maybe I should back up and explain the ecosystem. And by the way, Ryan, you did a great job of explaining sort of the way that beats work. They are kind of the foundation of music. It's like the raw ingredients of what we hear today in popular music. And so what has happened is music producers, they go on these marketplaces or they have their own storefronts, and what happens is they have this thing called type beats. And what type beats are is when a music producer will go ahead and name their beat a Drake type beat or Travis Scott type beat. And so if you're an artist or a label and you're looking for a beat, you say, oh, I was just thinking I want this Drake type beat. And perfect, this guy named his beat Drake type beat. And so what will happen is, that's at the discretion of the music producer. And that's something that they can also tag it Drake type beat. But what happens is that that can be confusing and misleading for an artist or someone who's searching for a beat. And so we think that, a big piece of this would be to replace that self tagging or that self naming and let the music speak for itself by implementing an AI technology to do that. So with Airbit specifically, if you copy paste a link, Spotify, SoundCloud, anywhere you listen to music, you input it into our search engine, it will analyze the beat. Our AI technology will analyze that beat. You can even strip out the vocals. You can even match the BPM, and it will use that reference track against our entire library of 1 million plus beats, and it'll start picking out beats that sound similar to that reference. So if you're some random music producer in
way.
like Lisbon, Portugal, and you've been producing beats for 15 minutes, there is a possibility that your beat will result in that search, simply because it matches the reference track that artist, label, songwriter has produced. So that's the kind of stuff that I think will change it.
That is incredible technology. I just, you were talking before about discoverability. I mean, what a great way to level the playing field for even the smallest, numbers indie creator to be able to make their way, like to cut through the clutter, because this AI can find something that sounds like a sound, but actually because it sounds like a sound. Because like in the old days, like I know about this, we're working with so many music supervisors and music licensees for sync projects. When we're searching for a song, because that's the way these sync projects always are, is it's like, well, we want a Drake song, but we can't afford Drake. So we need something that sounds like a Drake song for our commercial. And so like you have to put in search terms, happy, hip hop, and but like you can't verbalize the sound. And so what better way to search than to use the sound itself through AI? So what it means for discoverability, what it means for just searching music in general. Like you're talking about using this for beats marketplaces. The potential of this technology in like the music licensing space is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, and it's out there, Ryan. There are production music libraries that are using a similar type of technology, but I think the application for us is again, empowering the independent creator, and to your point with what you were saying about Taylor Swift is we are quick as independent artists to go ahead and give up rights to your music in order to get marketing, which now can be replaced by just being on TikTok. Distribution, which now can be replaced by DistroKid or TuneCore, to your point. And so these technologies are making it so that you don't have to sell your soul and give your rights away in order to be, a successful creator. And I think the other side to it is just, the way that you look at, independent creators today is that, they can take a lot of this stuff into their own hands, and so that there's something to be valued for that, and that's what we want to support. That's why we are providing the tools for folks to create their own stores. Like, it is kind of competitive to our marketplace, right? We have people that subscribe to use our services so that they can create their own storefronts, and then we power the back end with our technology and Airbit services. But we also offer the opportunity for the marketplace as well, and building in technology like this. We call it search by sound. So we use search by sound as our AI technology.
That's the whole idea of that. That just seems so incredible. Like that's out of Star Trek right there. I can't believe that that's the world we're in, that AI can do that, and I am just so excited for what that means for discoverability, for some small-time indie creator who created a great piece of work, who in the old world where we had to use verbal search terms to find the track we're looking for, to be able to create something that can cut through the clutter because it's exactly the sound that somebody's looking for, because you can search by sound, is really awesome. I know with your platform, Judah, and you had spoken about this a little bit earlier in the interview, about how you guys really seem to take an emphasis on community and creating a community in your space, which I think is sort of different from a lot of the other beats marketplaces that are just about buying and selling beats. Can you talk a little bit about that community aspect and why it's important to your platform?
Yeah, this is we found in the past year or so how critical community is. We're not a cool kids club. And what I mean by that is, yes, cool kids are invited for sure, and we love to have cool kids on Airbit. But what we're trying to do is we want to give everybody the resources to make music their career. And so in order to do that, we think community is how you can do that at scale. Like if we, hired, let's say we had, a budget to hire 100 people to go and mentor producers, or go out there and have one-on-one discussions and be critiques and help people with marketing and branding, that's not scalable. What's scalable is inviting the community together to help each other. And we look at it as there's so many elements to the business, and we do a lot of work ourselves where we create a lot of content to put out there for the team. But what we've done in the past 4 to I think 5 months is we've really put focus to our Discord server. And our Discord server is where we're starting to see this incredible collaboration. We hear people giving each other advice. It's not a zero-sum game when it comes to beats. In fact, it's like inherently the opposite, because what ends up happening is two people who want to sell a beat, they just collaborate. So it's not like I better get in front of this artist because otherwise this person's getting in front of that artist. It's more that, hey, we see people on Discord helping each other out, and at the end of the day, making the decision to collaborate with each other. And so when we look at the community, at the beginning of our Discord launch, we were doing a lot of the like, oh, if you need help collecting revenue on YouTube, here's how you do it. Oh, if you need some help with the Air platform, here's what you need to do. Now we've got our community doing that. So we have people asking questions about, hey, I can't figure out the Facebook tracking pixel for my Infinity store on Airbit. And then another Airbit subscriber will be like, oh, actually, here's how you do that. And so that's why I think, when I look at our community, outside of the competitors, but looking at our community, it's really a special group of people that love what they do, and they want to be rewarded for that. And so our job as a brand and a company in the music space is to help people stay independent. Don't sign away that publishing. Don't go ahead and sign to a label. Let's try to do it ourselves because we think you can. And that's what the community's goal is. It's to rally together in mass, to be able to say, what can we do to help each other collaborate and make music more fair and make it our career.
Let me get more of your perspective on that last point, because certainly it's a point of view that I hold pretty strongly too. We built a whole podcast around that exact point of view about keeping control of your art, putting out your music independently, achieving career success on your own terms. Those are the notes we play every week on this show. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad you're feeling the same way. But let me ask you, as somebody who's been in the industry long enough to see sort of the role of the label change, certainly what the labels looked like pre-2000, slightly post-2000 when the industry collapsed and the killers were stealing your business partners from you, to today. So can you talk a little bit about how the role of the label has changed and what that means today in terms of the extent to which it's more possible now for musicians to be able to achieve career success without a label?
So, the labels are still relevant. They are still relevant. They're still, they control a lot of what happens on Spotify. Again, discoverability, they monopolize that game. And so what I think the key is, if you're an independent creator and you're coming up, the key is to find your niche. You need to play to your audience and you need to build that audience. And this is something that we talk a lot about on the Discord server and within our community in general. It's great to be making music, and you need to make great music. You have to focus on your craft and your art, but there's the business side, and there's the marketing side. And I think you need to be thoughtful of how to do that with the advent of the new tools that are out there to do that. Paying attention to algorithms, paying attention to social media, paying attention to just your brand in general. You hear about, producers. And again, I kind of look at it through the lens of the producer. The producer has historically been an underserved creator, and their community has been underserved. they'd have to, producers typically don't get paid until the artist gets paid. They depend on the artist and the label quite a bit. And so, we look at producers as putting them in the forefront to be able to sell directly to an artist right away, get that money up front, whether it's an exclusive or a non-exclusive license. And so, that to me is another way that a producer can stay independent, is by focusing on that B2B, focusing on that labels become clients now. Labels are buying beats. So, we look at this in a different way because, and again, looking through the lens of a music producer, it's really about how can they transact on both the front end and the back end, get money up front for licensing or selling a beat, and then retaining the publishing rights, 50% publishing rights, to be able to also collect on the back end. So I think if that answers your question, I think the way I look at this is much more about, what other ways, like, pre-COVID, people were upset with how much they're making from Spotify. They went on tour, and most of these creators, artists were making money on tour, and that was their bulk of their income. And then, we looked at COVID time, the pandemic time, and we said to our producers, okay, now's the time, go sell, all the artists are making records. Now's the time to sell your beats and get that money up front.
Our guest has been Judah Wiedre. He is the COO of Airbit, an online beats marketplace that empowers musicians through community and provides unique monetization tools. Judah, this has been awesome. I love talking to people who basically just agree with everything we talk about on the show, our favorite kind of people. But in all seriousness, we love the insight. We love the music history, and just your dedication to empowering indie creators is super inspiring. Last question before we let you go for this week. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Oh, wow. I think it's coming from the producer perspective, I think it's about, building your brand, thinking about marketing, thinking about the way you present yourself. That's everything from how you price your music, what you say, your tag, everything that you put forward into, in front of potential collaborators or clients, customers. Think about how you position yourself. A big portion of it is the music, but there's also an important piece of it, which is how you come off in your brand.
Right on. Great stuff. Fantastic dismount. Judah, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thanks so much for having me, Ryan. Appreciate it.
All right. Gosh, that was fabulous. I think we nailed it, JC. I think going with the Killers story, right on. I mean, obviously, we don't know how good the Pamplona story was or the Bitcoin story could have been, but I mean, like Brandon Flowers stealing your business partners. That is like some soap opera stuff right there. Just incredible. Before we sign off this week, want to give the people out there, the viewers and the listeners, a rather delightful piece of Break the Business housekeeping. Things are awesome here at Break the Business in terms of the guests we got coming in. Last week, I had teased the possibility that we were landing the plane on booking Congressman Ted Deutsch to come on the program to talk about his Protect Working Musicians Act, which is the law that he's sponsoring that would allow indie creators to collectively bargain against platforms like Spotify and get better deals. We've been in touch with their press office back and forth, the whole team. It was basically a lobbying effort to get him on the show. And dang it, if we didn't make it happen, December 1st, Congressman Ted Deutsch on Break the Business, 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. Gonna be a blast. And chances are we probably have to put on some ties or something.
That's pretty big.
That's exciting. It's very, very cool. He's basically the only congressman who's putting out legislation directly for indie creators. It's going to be awesome to hear from a U.S. congressman talking about empowering indie artists, talking about the future of federal legislation in this area. Because we talk about empowering indie creators on the business side through platforms like Airbit, but the idea of actually empowering indie creators through the halls of Congress, and we're going to have a congressman talk about that, woo, so exciting. I love it. I'm so thrilled.
Huge news.
Yeah. But like, I mean, is our vibe going to be okay for him? Like, do we need to dress up? Like, do I need to wear something? Like, do I need to start shirt? Like,
It's definitely a tie moment.
Because
definitely a tie moment.
I was a U.S. Senate intern when I was in college for one semester.
You know the vibe. You've been an intern.
I'm telling you, I had to wear a suit and a tie every day to the U.S. Capitol, and all I did was sort mail. Like I was not like I wasn't giving like I wasn't his Sam Seaborn, or, giving policy advice on things. I was answering mail, and like once a week I gave a tour to some constituent. That was it. It was not suit and tie, not needed. And so I'm like, I don't know if like this same exact sweater that I wear every week on the show is going to do it for a member of Congress. So we'll talk to wardrobe about that, see what we're going to do. In the meantime, a little bit of pop culture worth talking about, JC. We had a blast last weekend with some of the other Break the Business people that come through here, Evan and Lisa. We were playing a little Mario Party. Mario Party's back.
Oh. It is back. Definitely better than ever. Was Superstars is the new version that just came out.
Well, in true Mario Party fashion, they're like it's basically just all the old games again. But,
it's definitely something
but
you've
it's
seen
on the
before.
Switch. And for the first time, you can play online.
Oh, yeah.
Which is incredible.
It's really good. I had such a good time. It's novel, right? Who would have thought that just making Mario Party available to play online would be a thing that people would like and enjoy?
Oh, it's so... I mean, between you, me, Evan, and Elisa, like us playing that game, has anything like strengthened but also simultaneously destroyed our friendships more than that particular game?
Oh, absolutely. I can't stand any of you, but I also love all of you. It's definitely the sort of family building game that everyone, you always walk away with some very mixed emotions.
Yeah.
But most of it's fun.
Is it your favorite of the like Mario social games? Like, is it your favorite of the Mario cinematic universe? Like, I know you like karts. I know you're a kart guy.
I'm a pretty big kart guy. I'm gonna have to, it tier list. That's probably a thing we need a whole top of the show segment for. What is the Mario tier list? And we can put it on screen. I'm gonna say that Mario Party, especially with this new one, that's gotta be A tier. S tier is Mario Kart. Mario Kart is S tier. It's the top of the pyramid for me. But Mario Party is definitely A tier, especially if I win. If I collect all those stars, I'm for sure.
Well, that's where it gets. So for the people who are not familiar with Mario Party, and if not, like, come on, get on it, because it really is a blast. It is a fun game, and even if you're not like a gamer, it's a great kind of entry level game. You don't need to be like really adept at video games to have a good time playing Mario Party.
You could actually put the controller down.
Yep.
Have everyone else play the game and win.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you just sit there, sometimes the games are so wacky that you don't have to do anything, and you could totally walk away winning.
Well, especially because the way that Mario Party is structured is basically it's like a video game board game where you're trying to get stars, and the person with the most stars wins. And generally the way you get stars is by winning coins in mini games that you then exchange for stars, and then if you get the most stars, you win. But that's not how it works completely, because at the end of the game just like randomly gives you stars for like the most bull bleep reasons, where it's like you're up by like 2 stars and you got this because you won all the games, you got all the coins, and then they're just like, Yoshi gets a star for shiniest shoes. Yeah. And like just freaking overtakes you. But it sucks and you get so mad, but it's like one of the things that makes the game delightful.
Luigi was the greenest. Here is another star. Oh, look, Luigi won. Who would have thought? It's a little bit more organized than that, but that is the cool thing. That it does bring that sort of bit. I'm a big board gamer, for the audience that doesn't know, I know Ryan knows, I have tortured you with many a board game rule in the past. But, it really brings that feeling of, family board game night, and it's all chaos. Like, who knows? You're just rolling dice, and it's very Chutes and Ladders, Candyland. Who cares at the end of the day, because you all played and had a lot of fun. Yeah, it's great to connect with that.
It's a blast. Mario Party Twitch stream at some point. Just saying, putting it out into the universe.
Could happen.
Putting it out into the universe and see what comes back.
We may need a matured language.
For sure
on that one.
That one definitely can't go on Sirius XM. All right. Oh, yeah. Our thanks to Judah Wiedre for joining us. My thanks to you, JC. Thanks to Lauren, Jessica Stell, all the people who make this show possible. Thanks you most of all. Viewers and listeners, for checking out Break the Business. We will see you next week.
Break